All right. Now let's talk about something that is at the core of the Power Rangers universe, but also one of the most misunderstood, underexplored, and flat out mystical concepts in the entire franchise, and that is the Morphin Grid. So we hear it nearly in every Power Ranger series, right? Assessing the Morphin Grid or their connection to the Morphin Grid has been severed. But what is the Morphin Grid really? Is it science? Is it magic? Is it some kind of cosmic force like the Force in Star Wars or something entirely different? Now, we're going to take a deep dive into the morphing grid and what it actually is and how it connects to the Power Rangers across time and why it might be the most important concept, not just in Power Rangers, but in any multiverse driven franchise. So, first off, let's talk about what it is. What is the morphing grid? So, at its simplest, the morphing grid is the universal energy field that all Power Rangers tap into to morph, fight evil, and unlock powers far beyond regular humans. But when you dig deeper, it becomes way more than that. It's not just a battery or a power source. The morphing grid is a living cosmic network. So think of it like a spiritual internet that spans time, space, dimensions, and possibly even reality itself. It's where the suits come from. It's how Zords form, and it's what gives Rangers enhanced strength, speed, agility, and durability. Darn near, it gives them everything. And what's the craziest part? The craziest part is that it responds to intention, willpower, and emotion. And that's why being a ranger isn't just about combat skills, but it's also about character. And the grid doesn't just hand out power to anybody. So let's talk about where it comes from, because this is where things get super deep. Now, the Morphin Grid's origins have always been vague, but over time, different Ranger series and comics have layered more and more onto it. So in Power Rangers RPM, it was hinted that the grid could be assessed through advanced tech. In Power Rangers Dino Charge, it's more of a mystical thing. And then boom, Studios Comics took the whole entire Morphin Grid lore to a whole another level because in the comics we learned about the emissaries, and they are powerful godlike beings that serve the Morphin Grid directly. And then there's the Morphin Masters, and those are ancient entities who basically seeded Ranger powers across the universe. They're like basically the Guardians of the Galaxy mixed with the Jedi Council, and they're the ones who make sure that the grid stays in balance. But this is where things get even wilder because the grid has a will of its own. So yes, the Morphin Grid is sentient, right? Or at least it's aware to some sort. So when Lord Draken, right, the evil alternate universe Tommy Oliver, started to mess with the grid to absorb Ranger powers across timelines, the grid didn't just allow it to happen, right? It fought back, it cracked, and it tried to repair itself. It's as if the grid has a protective instinct, like it knows what should and should not happen. And that's crazy to think about because it means that the Rangers aren't just chosen randomly. The morphing grid selects them and it allows certain people to bond with it, people who have the heart, courage, and leadership to wield that kind of power responsibly. Now, what's also amazing is that every single Ranger team, from Mighty Morphin to Zeo to Turbo to Space to Lightspeed to Time Force and even Ninja Storm and SPD, they all tap into different frequencies or aspects of the same morphin grid. So it's like every team has its own unique key to the same cosmic lock. And that includes Ranger teams in the future and also in alternate universes. So in SPD, for an example, the grid is institutionalized and regulated. In RPM, the world is apocalyptic, but they still use a synthetic connection to the grid. No matter how far or different the setting, the grid is always there. It's quietly empowering heroes and resisting evil. And a lot of people assume that Zords are just giant robots, right? But here's the thing, Zords are actually manifestations of the grid. So when a Ranger team forms, the grid essentially creates or enables their Zords, either by summoning ancient creatures or bonding with Earth's forces. So an example would be, dinosaurs, animals, or vehicles, or syncing with advanced alien tech. And the same goes for their weapons and gear. They're literally extensions of the grid's energy. That's why when a ranger loses connection to the grid, everything falls apart. The suit goes away, the weapons vanish, and the Zords stop responding. But here's the thing that you guys have to understand. The power of the grid isn't in the tech, it's in the connection. Now, there is a darker truth to the morphing grid too. And it's that if the morphing grid can give, it can also be corrupted too. And this is where we talk about Lord Draken, right? Draken tapped into the morphing grid in the most selfish and dangerous way possible, not just to get more power, but to control the grid itself. His actions literally fractured the destabilizing reality across timelines. And we're talking a full-on multiversal collapse. There's also the Imperials, right? Introduced in the comics, and they are massive beings that feed off of the grid and try to destroy entire timelines. the Morphin Grid isn't just a source of good, but it's also a battleground. So while the grid empowers heroes, it also attracts monsters, warlords, and dark forces who want to weaponize it. Okay, so the Morphin Grid does still matter today, right? And in a world where every franchise has its ongoing multiversal saga, right? Marvel, DC, Star Wars, the Morphin Grid predates all of it, right? It's been the connective tissue of every Power Ranger timeline since the beginning, and it ties together legacy. It balances emotion and power. It gives everyday people the ability to become heroes, and it represents something important. And it's the idea that true power comes from within you, and that is what makes someone a ranger. It isn't the suit, but it's their heart. And the Morphin Grid is the soul of the Power Rangers. And if Hasbro or future reboots really want to push the lore forward, diving deeper into the grid, in my opinion, is the move to go, because you can tell the untold stories. Show us the Morphin Masters in their full force, and let us see what happens when someone tries to become the actual grid. And even give us a history on how the Morphin Masters became the freaking Morphin Master, like an actual live action, like, project where we can see that. And it continues to bind every version of the Power Rangers together across worlds, timelines, and across like literally generations of time. And honestly, I think that's what makes it one of the cool and most underrated energy sources in all of sci-fi. So I hope that you guys like this video of breaking down the Morphin Grid. I've always, thought about the grid and like, and how it could possibly, be a thing, right? And so I did a lot of research. I went back rewatching a lot of shows, you know what I'm saying? And just trying to brush back up on it because I never really got to research it. And when I got to read the comics, it really opened up my eyes to the grid and how important it actually is. So please leave in the comments below. Leave in the comments below your favorite Power Ranger group. Is it SPD? Is it RPM, etc.? We'd love to hear what you got there. Is it Ninja Storm? We'd love to hear you guys' favorite Power Rangers of all time. But have a great day, stay crispy, and peace out.